There's a sentence I've been afraid to say out loud for years. I don't want to be exceptional anymore. Not in the Instagram sense, not in the resume sense, not in the I woke up at 5 a.m. to become my highest self sense. I want to be average. And even writing, that feels spoiled. Like I'm announcing my retirement from ambition, from the comfort of a life that by global standards is already luxurious. Roof, food, healthcare, internet fast enough to stream my existential dread in 4K. So before I romanticize mediocrity, I need to say this clearly. Most people don't get to choose average. They run the rat race because rent doesn't care about your burnout. I've run it too, I still do. Stability is not something you opt into. It's something you claw your way toward. But right now, in this season of my life, after years of trying to upgrade myself like a broken operating system, I am at peace with something I never thought I'd admit. Doing the bare minimum to keep myself sane feels like success. We live in a culture where average is treated like a diagnosis. You're not tired. You're not maximizing your potential. You're not overwhelmed. You're not disciplined enough. You're not content. You're playing too small. The self-improvement industry has trained us to hear stillness as stagnation and satisfaction as laziness. You don't just work a job, you build a personal brand. You don't just rest, you optimize recovery. You don't just exist, you perform your becoming. We are no longer allowed to simply be fine. At some point I noticed something uncomfortable. The more I chased the better version of myself, the less I recognized the actual one. There was always a next thing. More emotional intelligence, more resilience, more habits, more vision, more healing, more alignment, more output. I wasn't living, I was preparing to live, and I kept postponing the permission to be okay until I had earned it. The Stoics would have hated this. Marcus Aurelius didn't journal about becoming extraordinary. He wrote about accepting what is. If you seek tranquility, do less. Meditations. Not do more efficiently, not optimize your output. Do less. Seneca warned that ambition doesn't free us, it enslaves us. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. The modern world flipped that completely. Now we are told that craving more is not poverty, it's personality. There is a special kind of exhaustion that comes from trying to outgrow yourself constantly. Not because growth is bad, but because never arriving is. When every phase of your life is framed as a stepping stone, nothing is allowed to be home. You don't get to say, this is enough, because enough has become synonymous with failure. Here's the part that feels almost taboo to admit. Lowering my standards has made me happier. Not my values, my standards. I no longer need every project to be meaningful, every relationship to be transformative, every day to move the needle. Some days I just want the needle to stay where it is. In a culture addicted to progress, maintenance is revolutionary. We are taught that mediocrity is dangerous. But what if it's actually protective? What if being average isn't giving up, but stepping out of the constant comparison, out of the internal performance review, out of the pressure to convert your existence into a success story? There's a quote often misattributed to Einstein. Strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value. But even that has been hijacked. Now, value has been monetized, packaged, scaled. You're not allowed to be valuable in quiet ways, being kind to your child, keeping your marriage afloat, showing up to work without losing your mind. These things don't trend, so they disappear. I used to measure my life in upgrades, bigger goals, smarter insights, better systems. Now I measure it in nervous system safety. Did I feel calm today? Did I sleep? Did I stop before I broke? This is not glamorous. It's not a real, but it's real. The Stoics practiced something called voluntary discomfort. Cold showers, simple meals, reduced desires. Not because they wanted to suffer, but because they wanted freedom from dependency. If your happiness requires everything to go right, you're fragile. So they trained themselves to need less. Not as punishment, but as protection. In that sense, choosing average is deeply stoic. It's not resignation, it's sovereignty. We've been sold a fantasy where meaning is always loud. But most of life is not loud. Most of life is repetitive, unremarkable, mundane. And yet that's where it actually happens, not in breakthroughs, but in brushing teeth, making dinner, going to bed on time. The miracle is not the highlight reel, it's that you're still here tomorrow. I think we're afraid of average because it confronts us with a terrifying thought. What if this is it? Not the launch, not the next chapter, not the before picture. Just this small, imperfect, good enough life. I'm not saying ambition is wrong. I'm saying ambition without rest becomes self-harm with better branding. We don't need to stop striving. We need to stop treating striving as the only legitimate state of being. There's a Japanese concept called shoshin, beginner's mind. It means approaching life without the weight of expertise or expectation. When everything is a performance metric, you lose that. Average lets you be a beginner again. It lets you fail quietly, try awkwardly, care without needing proof. The irony is this: when you stop trying to be exceptional, you often become more human, more patient, more present, more tolerable to be around. Success culture makes us impressive. Average makes us bearable. I used to think lowering my standards meant lowering my worth. Now I think it means lowering the volume on the part of me that is never satisfied, never done, never still. I don't want a life that looks successful. I want a life that feels survivable. So yes, average is the new black. Not because it's trendy, but because in a world that profits from your inadequacy, contentment is an act of quiet rebellion. Not the kind that burns down systems, the kind that lets you live inside them without disappearing. And maybe that's what meaning looks like now. Not a legacy, not a personal brand, just being here, without constantly trying to escape yourself. That's not mediocrity, that's mercy.